Welcome back, May 30th.
Yep.
It's the month of being mom.
I'm still mom.
Yep, all month long.
All month long.
Mother's Day, all month. So.
Okay, y'all heard that, right? Jake, you heard that importantly enough.
Yeah, I'm gone most of it. So.
The verse we did for this one is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So on the last episode, we talked about making our big decision, going to Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour. We touched a little bit. We were already qualified for the Classic. Which
happens to be at home.
Happens to be at home in Knoxville. So we're not fishing bass, but they honored it, let all the guys fish the Classic that had qualified. We've started our new season.
Yeah, we've already had a couple tournaments. Something
like that. But then have to go back and fish the Classic, which of course is here. But looking back on it now, almost 2 years later, it still is amazing. I mean, like, we know this. We can read this verse every single day of our lives and never really put it into perspective of, okay, so God knew 3 years ago that this opportunity was going to come. He knew that the Classic was going to be here. He knew that Ott was going to qualify for the Classic. He knew that we weren't going to be fishing with bass.
He knew that I was going to be born in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Well,
yes.
But I mean, all of the little steps that, we felt like are hurdles we have to get over to make it to this point. It's here. It's 2019. It's nothing we envisioned. We never knew that we would fish a Classic in our hometown and not actually be fishing with bass.
Right. I mean, that's like, as awesome as it was,
it still was like just a part of us, like just a, what do you call it?
A knot in your throat?
Yes, that.
Yeah. Because it's, to our knowledge, this is our last, and it has been to this point. I've not fished any opens or anything. This is going to be the last Bassmaster event I fish.
At this point in time.
As far as I can see ahead. God's got a plan and a future. I don't know what it is. I may end up fishing them again in the future. But as far as I can see right now,
this was it. And I mean, and of course, after we've been away, we've had all this off-season drama. We've come out, we've started fishing, new league, things are great, we love it, everything's good. And then we come back to the Classic, and it's like, I know for me, I can remember just being like, oh, are you sure? Like, are you sure we did the right thing?
Right.
Because you're back, you're with your people, and we love these people. Yeah. And we have spent months and weeks on the road with these people. Like, they know our families, our kids know them. Like, it was and overwhelming to be back there. And so and you had went to some of them, but I mean, my Classic experience started when I was 9, and I went to 9 of them in a row. I was a fan of the Classic since I was a fan of bass fishing. So I have fished 7 Classics up to this point. I've had some top 10 finishes in them. Never been really in, quite. I was never not really.
One of them, I felt like I was truly a fish away from winning. But I never lost a winning fish. I never had a chance to win one, but I had success in them. And I fished 7. This is potentially going to be my last one, but yet I've not won one. And there was definitely a longing there. I mean, this is probably the last one I'm going to fish. It's at home. It's all this, so much stuff built up on it. It's like, it was a lot of pressure going into that one. I mean, just because of that stuff, and because that was the event that I went to as a kid. That was like, I want to be a bass fisherman because of that.
Yeah, that was
the event. But yeah, so I mean, with the Classic, that was, we had qualified for it. When it got announced? So about a year ahead of time. And we had kind of heard rumors that, they were working to try to get the Classic. So we're like, okay, it's actually going to happen.
We know it's happening.
And so, sure enough, we able to go to that conference. they announce, and that was at the beginning of the season. We've got our whole 18 season. None of the MLS, none of that stuff. It even wasn't.
That was great.
Yeah, yeah. But it was now we know. Hey, this class is going to be at home next year. We've got to qualify for it. Pressure started then.
Yeah. For you, not me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and the interview started then. To be honest, it was like, people, preempt, getting ahead of it all. Hey, what's it going to be like? What's fishing like then? Blah blah blah. Yeah. All the questions. I was most definitely the hometown pick, for the event. If Brandon Coulter would have made it, he would have been as much or more so than I was, rightfully so.
Oh yeah, he's done lots better on Fort Loudon.
A lot better. Yeah, he'll beat me at least 99 out of 100 times there.
Yes, and I should say we had talked about it before about Fort Loudon being like the one lake that we're like, please don't be on that lake. Yeah,
hosted out of Knoxville, but let's fish Douglas.
Yeah, something Cherokee, anything other than Loudon. Yeah. Just because we had a BFL where it was late.
Yeah.
We all stood on the banks waiting for him to come in. He was a solid 10, 15 minutes late.
It was 7.
It seemed like 30.
Yeah.
We've done well, then caught one fish. We've it's just
an FLW tour fence there. Yeah.
Never been good to us in a bigger tournament. So
now and local team tournaments and stuff.
Stuff's fine,
I won more money there, as a kid over the years than I did on any of the other lakes, Douglas or Cherokee, either one. It was good to me and stuff like that, but big events. It was no good. The little Wildcat series that we ran on Sunday evenings for a while, we'd win a lot of those. So I could go down there and catch them once.
Just not multiple days
I just usually couldn't catch them 2 days in a row. So a one-day tournament, I was fine there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like, yeah, I mean, it's a classic. Yeah, it's at home, but it's on Fort Loudon. You know, so yeah, it definitely. And anybody who's fished it enough, and Coulter is as good as anybody that I know there, and he'll tell you. It is your friend one day, and the next day, you can't get away from it fast enough.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So, it wasn't like we were overly confident going into it. We knew it would be God's hand if it went well.
100%, yeah.
There was no question there. And I guess jump up to, kind of the week before the event, and the way the Classic week, I assume, is still structured. You'd roll into town. Well, I'm already in town. You practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a week before the event. And then you have Monday, I don't think you have anything.
Monday's your move day. Because typically you stay at the lake or, for practice, and then Monday you move into the hotel that they provide. Yeah. So Monday's the move day.
Monday's move-in day. Tuesday was a tournament meeting. And...
like registration,
registration,
and pictures, and anything they needed.
Yeah. You did all that kind of stuff on Tuesday. Wednesday was an official practice day, so you literally would blast off. You have to check in on time. It was a complete run through of what the first day of the tournament's going to be to make sure everything's. So it was a practice day, but it was a much shorter practice day. Thursday was media day.
Well, Wednesday we have Night of the Champions, so that's always a really late night. And then Thursday goes into media day.
Into media day, so set up your. And the way that always worked, you'd park your boat, media come through, do your interviews, all that kind of stuff. Then Friday, boom, starts the first day. So it's spread out 10 days ahead of time from practice, the start of practice to the end of the tournament. The first 3 days of practice, you're just on your own. But really, once you get to like Tuesday, you got to Tuesday, you're at noon. You're pretty much busy the whole time. Yeah. And I mean, and at that point, everybody that comes up to you and sticks a mic in your face is, "Hey, Artie, you're going to win. Are you going to win? Are you going?" That's being from here, grew up here, lived here my whole life. It's everybody was expecting me to win.
No pressure.
No pressure. But how much you going to win by? That was kind of the way that they were asking the question almost. Like I'm supposed to have this place completely figured out. But that was as much as we expected that in some ways, and I feel like for sure the Holy Spirit that helped us juggle all that.
Oh, had to have.
I mean.
Yeah.
That was too much.
Yeah, it was too much. It was a lot in 1 week. Plus, kids are in school stuff, so I'm trying to keep them going to and from and what they have to do. You know, plus it's a classic, so we've got Andy here, so I'm trying to like be wifey and cook and, you know, like just juggling everything. And, you know, and plus we've got other friends that come in later in the week, so, you know, we want to see them and hang out, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot going on.
That's what we've seen with having tournaments at home. People be like, oh, it's man, it's great. You know, you get to stay at home for a tournament. And it is, and I'd assume them all be at home. But it's actually more hectic because...
I don't want them all at home. You need to take your tournament and go.
but because you still have home stuff going on.
Yeah.
Especially if the kids are in school.
Because at least if we go to a tournament, everything else is done. Like,
life freezes.
Yes,
I mean,
it's like a vacation for us because we don't have to worry about all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But when you have normal life on top of tournament life, it's definitely crazy.
Overload, completely overload. So you get, I mean, not too much in the fishing stuff, but I mean, you know, practice, I caught fish. I felt like I had a pretty good pattern figured out. Probably the most exciting part was I didn't fish. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff that I never fished. I didn't want to be seen on. But most of the people in this tournament, there was such a good bite in practice in the backs of pockets. It was like as good as I've ever seen it for that time of the year. Water had been actually over full pool. Before practice, they'd sucked it back down below winter pool. And then, I mean, it was an on fire bite in the backs of these pockets. And that had 90% of the competitors doing that, chasing that. And I could ride down the lake, and anything I wanted to fish, there was nobody around. I mean, it was that way all of practice. And I mean, this is a classic. These guys don't know this lake that well. They're not going to drop what they're doing and go do something different in a tournament.
Yeah.
So that really helped my confidence a lot. And a lot of that stuff I never even fished. I'm like, I'm going to fish this point in practice. But I fished some little stuff here and there enough to know that, yeah, they were on the main channel and they were biting. And we had tons of rain. There was tons of current. The water was muddy. I'm like, I don't have to practice this stuff. I know what I'm going to do. And so, I mean, the first day, the thing that sticks out to me more than anything, fishing was great as far as that goes. But yeah, so Friday morning, first day of the tournament, we've talked about this for literally nearly a year at this point of all the decisions, of all the interviews, of all the hoopla, of all the pressure, it's led up to right now. I've got my boat hooked up to the truck, about to pull out of the driveway and drive put my boat in the water and go fish the Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville, Tennessee. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. And with all that, I mean, it was just unbelievable emotion I had going on in my body. And I was like, I have to go pray and get this off my chest. I won't even put a bait in the water. I mean, there's no way I can. And so I walked out to the edge of the hill, and I got down on my knees, and I prayed that God would be glorified. If he used me, he used me. If he used somebody else, he used somebody else. But I was like, God, you be glorified in this. I would love for you to use me, but you know what's best, and you know how you'll be most glorified. Just do that. And that was my prayer, and it was as sincere as any prayer I've ever prayed, I think, because that was what I wanted out of this. Did I want to win? Absolutely, but I knew that I needed to center myself. I needed to set myself out of it and put God first, and that whatever He wanted done in this, He was going to do, and that, you know, just to make that happen. That was my prayer that morning before I pulled out of the driveway. And it was one of the, I have to say, one of the most awesome prayers that I have ever felt, short of praying to receive Christ. I mean, you know, praying over our children and stuff, but this one was just below those. I mean, absolutely. And then, I mean, I remember driving to the ramp that morning, jamming some Zach Williams and, you know, and listening to that, getting there. And it was a very surreal, you know, first thing to idle out of there and then call your name, going to fish the Classic on home waters like that.
And thousands of people showed up. I mean, I forget what the numbers were, but it was
a few thousand.
I was asleep. But
yeah, Jennie was asleep.
I probably wasn't asleep, but
yeah. But you took the kids to school that day.
Yeah, so I was like, taking the kids to school.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was, and I remember, I mean, I could walk you through most of the stops. I know the first place I started, I was really excited about it. I didn't catch anything. And then like the next place I catch one, it's like maybe a 2-pounder, but then, end up catching a couple 3-pounders, and I caught a 6-pounder. At like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. It was my 4th fish, and it was a 6-pounder. That's a big fish for Fort Loudoun. A 4-pounder is a good one. A 6-pounder is a well above average fish. I think it ended up being the 2nd biggest fish of the whole tournament. But when I caught that one, I was like, that's the fish I need, honestly, for this whole week to make a big difference. You catch a limit of 2.5 to 3.5 every day, but you throw a 6 in the mix somewhere, and you've kind of got what you need.
Yeah.
And then ended up, I already had 2 3-pounders, had a 6-pounder now, and I remember I'd caught another nice fish over 3 pounds, and late in the day I pulled up on a spot that honestly had never been that good to me in local tournaments. That buddies of mine had always caught them there, and I pull up there, and I had caught everything that day on the lipless crankbait, that Arashi vibe, but I had, honest to goodness, tied on a DT4 with this spot in my brain that I was like, this place is too hangy. I pull up there, I stop the boat, I pick up the Arashi vibe, I look at it, and I'm like, no, this job's not for you. I put it down, and I pick up that DT4, and like 3 casts, I catch one almost 4 pounds. And that was the last cull I made that day, and had 20 and was leading. Now, the next day was not so good. Yeah, it was definitely a much bigger struggle. Caught one decent fish early, and just it was late before I ever even caught a limit.
Yeah, it was. So because of it being a home lake, we had some friends that were like, oh, you need to sell Ott gear, you need to get some apparel. And I'm like, gosh, I don't think I can man that. So I had, our good friend Biz and her friend Brittany came, and they manned the whole booth. So like, not only is Knoxville Lake broke all the records, but the expo was like, you couldn't walk through it. And so we have a booth with all of our Ott gear, and and I'm a determined person, so I'm like, I'm gonna go, like, I'll take the kids, and I've got 2 extra kids. Abby's 2 friends are with us, plus the twins, and like the Nitro people are come by, I've got Ott's, his big fat head things, and come by and get those. So now we're carrying 3 giant Ott heads through the crowd, and we're already keep getting stopped, and he was leading the tournament the day before, so like we can't get in and out of the expo. Couldn't even get to the booth hardly. So I finally am like, kids, heads down, don't make eye contact, and we're walking. Like, we have to get to the shuttle or we're not going to get to the weigh-in. And so, it was just mass chaos. And, of course, everybody's coming up to me and like, oh, he ain't catching them, and I'm like, I know. Like, and it's just kind of a tough thing because I know it's not that I'm frustrated with you, but I know how frustrated you are. Right. And so then that makes me frustrated. Like, the kids know if Dad's having a bad day on the water, Mom's probably in a bad mood too, because I feel so bad that I can't fix it. I've gotten a lot better over that. I mean, I have really. Okay. I'm just usually like, that's fine. Yeah. I think it's because I'm too busy with them. I don't. But anyway, so it's just a whole dynamic of having a bad day, and I know he's going to be grumpy because I know what he's thinking, and he's thinking I've just lost the classic today, it's over with. Yeah. And sure enough.
And it was. I mean, that was, they ended up like 10 pounds or whatever on the day, and fall from 1st to 4th. But I'm only like 2 pounds back or something, I think, from Wheeler. Yeah. It was less than, it might have been 2.5. I know it was less than 3 pounds. But I'm like, if I'd have just caught 15 pounds today, I'd still be leading by like whatever, 4 or 5 pounds or something,
And it's so funny because that's what's going through his head. And I'm kind of excited because I'm like, the pressure's off of us. Yeah. Like, in my mind, I'm like, we're 4th, like, win, lose, or draw. It's now Wheeler's to lose. Yeah. Like, we can go do, and, he's still very angry. I was. But in my mind, I'm like, I would much rather go out 4th and come back and win than to be 1st and lose it. Yeah.
And that was, and I've shared this at a lot of churches and stuff when I spoke about this. At that point, I wasn't mad at God because, I mean, the first day went so well. I was like, man, God, I prayed this prayer to you to use whoever. You're going to use me now. I saw after the first day. I can already see you. God, man, we were in line. I'm so glad you were thinking what I was thinking. But then after day 2, it's like, what's this about? It's like, why did this go this way? I should have caught 18 pounds and been leading by 6 or 8. I don't even hardly have to catch anything tomorrow. It's like, why? I wasn't mad. I just kind of questioning. I guess I was in some ways. but I was just didn't understand why it went the way it did. And that next morning, Sunday morning, I slept great too. Saturday night, after I was not in the lead, I slept great. And then going, like that morning, I wake up and I'm like, and I got to the point, I think, about that time of where you were. It's like, hey, you're not leading. You're not even in the top 3. But you're not, it's not like I'm 8 pounds back or 10 pounds back. You're 2 pounds back. It's one decent fish and you've overcame that gap. You move on with the rest of your day. So I got to that point the next morning because it took a little bit, but it just, I got to there. And then I got dressed, I got ready to leave, but I honestly could feel the Holy Spirit tugging at me and being like, you need to pray with your wife before you leave this morning. And it was, and I did. I knelt down beside her and I held her hand, and I woke you up, which is a scary thing to do.
It scared me to death because I didn't know it was wrong.
But I was like, babe, I need to pray with you because I need you to hear what I'm going to ask God. And it was, I had to ask for forgiveness in that moment. I did, because what I had said was sincere on Friday morning, that I wanted him to be used, or I wanted him to be glorified. And if that meant using me, good. If it didn't, good. But I meant that. At the end of the day, Saturday, I wasn't living like I meant that anymore. I really wasn't. And so Sunday morning, I had to ask for forgiveness. And I think I wanted you as a witness. And so I think that's kind of what it was that, because I knew that you had felt my frustration. You'd saw the purpose in it, that I didn't need to be leading, but you had felt my frustration. But I needed a witness to be like, hey, this is really where I'm at. And it went back to what I had said Friday morning. I was like, God, you be glorified. If we pull this off, you better use me. You better open doors. You better, and I'm going to say yes. And I think that we have been pretty faithful in that. I mean, that there have been so many opportunities that we've been able to speak at places and share the gospel and stuff since then.
In my mind, like it hadn't really set in like this was real time, like this was really about to happen, like this was the
final day of it.
The final day, it's here, and I know he's good. He's going to be out on the water. And not only a final day of the Classic, but it's potentially our final day of Bass. Of everything. So our emotions are really
through the roof.
And it was a Sunday, so I was like, I'm going to take the kids to church. Like, I'm going to try to be as normal as I can before I have to be over there. And so, get the kids up. We go to church, and I help teach 3-year-olds at our church. And so the kids go off. Of course, we had turned live on a little bit before we left, but I was like, I don't want it on. I don't want to know. Like, it's just better for my mind. I'll look at it when we get done with church. Well, so we go happily about, with our little 3-year-olds. And Parker and Lizzie come out of Sunday school, and I think before we went in, like, you hadn't caught any, or maybe just caught one or something.
Or 2 small ones, I think.
But Parker, he comes running down the hall. Number 1, he's not supposed to be running. Number 2, he's like, Mom, are you watching? Dad's leading. And I'm like, why are you watching? Like, he's like, oh, I got my Sunday school teacher, turn it on. Like, we've all been watching. And, like, the whole church had been watching.
Yeah,
and so,
except Jennie.
Except me. And even Brandon, he'd been watching, but I told him, I was like, don't update me. Like, I just let me have a happy moment with Jesus and not being worried about the tournament. And so, of course, now I know he's leading. So, and we're kind of convicted. Like, do we watch this while Mark preaches? Or, do we check it? But I know there's people checking because, there's thumbs up in me in the middle. I won't mention names, but... so we go up in the choir, and we always have a prayer time. If you got anything to pray about, you stand. And I lean over to our best friend Amber, and I'm like, listen, I'm not standing but you better be praying for me. Like, I'm trying not to cry. Like, we're trying to keep it together. And so, we go through all that time and everything in at church, and I keep it together pretty good. But like, it keeps the coming, and I'm like just crying. Abby's crying. Parker's crying. Lizzie is just
straight-faced.
Why y'all keep crying? Like, what are you crying about? I mean, Dad's leading. That's good.
Right.
And I'm just like, sis, quit, we're
like, judging us.
Quit making fun of us. Yeah. Like, we're just excited and can't, contain it and go the rest of the day. We get to because we'd go from the hotel and ride the shuttle, and it was really cool because we had a shuttle, and it was like all of our people. So it was like my parents and brother and our friends, and then there was, I forget who it was, there was like 2 people that were not with us. But we're like, you're with us today, like, and we have some really cool pictures and stuff, and go to the arena. And of course, like, he's still fishing at this point because we get over there early and get in before everybody, before they open the doors. And, so his dad and brother were on the water. And that was really cool. They got to watch him catch, like, his last 4-pounder and, be a part of that there with him. And, of course, everybody's watching it in the stadium. And so we know, like, at this point, like, we know he's won. Certain, but the killer is we need to talk to Wheeler. Is to, like, make sure he's not snowballing the bass track. And so, Tom Ott comes in, talks to Wheeler, confirms what we think we already know, and he calls me and he's like, "Where are you? Are you not going to come over here?"
Like, I wanted, I'm get to the boat ramp, and all I want to do, well, I mean, first of all, we can't look at bass track. We couldn't look at it. I'm like, so I literally set the boat down at boat check, tell my boat number. I'm like, "Babe, what's the deal?" It's like, "What do you mean, what's the deal?" I'm like, I mean, what, have you been watching? I mean, like, well, it shows you're winning. Like, okay. I'm like, well, are y'all over here or what's? He's like, no, we can't get out. We can't get out here and get over there and get back.
Yeah, because between crowds and
I
going back and forth.
Like, well, we'll see you on the stage, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, listen, I will see you on the stage. Like, I don't know what else to tell you in this moment.
That was all I wanted to do was to see them, because I did once I talked. I mean, I've got Robbie Floyd, who's like, he gets in your boat at the end if you're most likely to win. He had been telling me for 2 hours, hadn't left yet, so that's usually a good indication that things are going well. And I just wanted to see them. I mean, I wanted to be able to give them a hug and just embrace with them, but wasn't able to do that.
No, we had to wait till we were on stage in front of all those people.
Yeah. So that was. So I was 4th going out that day, so I weighed in, and there was 3 more people to weigh in, with Jacob being the last one to be there. And the Jordan, he gave the trophy before y'all came up, right? Yeah. So it's gets down to it. Jacob brings his fish up, whatever that needed, and I had like almost 19 pounds that day. I think he had 13 or something, so the winning margin was 4 or 5 pounds, something like that. But so have that confetti moment there on the stage, and Jordan being the 2 years previous champion. But he carried the trophy out there and handed it to me, and he whispered 2 things in my ear. He said, "Throw your phone away and get a new number, and this sucker's heavy." Yeah, was the 2 things he said to me when he handed me the trophy, both of which were true.
Yep.
That you did. You did need to just throw your phone away and start over. It would have been easy, but yeah, and then shortly after that, Jennie and the kids get to come up and us hop in the boat and take our victory lap, which was,
So I guess we'll end. It's gonna be a long episode, but we'll end it with our verse again, which is Jeremiah 29:11. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And that's exactly, like, he knew all the steps, and he knew what was going to happen. And
if you can't look back at that and see God's handiwork in every single step of that, I mean, there's no way a human could put that into motion.
No.
We'd mess that up.
Every single time.
And even as much as we tried to mess it up.
Yeah. I was going to say, we attempted it very much.
He knew the plans he had. Thank you very much for watching.
Yep, next Sunday we will be live.
We will be.
June 6th.
Yep.
All of our kids will be a year older, which is sad.
Be, yeah.
It's really sad.
Twins will be double digits.
I might still be crying that live episode.
Because the twins are double digits.
Because the twins are double digits. I don't have any more babies.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.